With the new trainer class stadiums coming to Pokemon Pocket, I thought this would be a great time to share with you guys some custom Pokemon stadium cards. Because as of right now, the only stadium we know of is Peculiar Plaza, which is super great for psychic types. However, I'm not sure if that's going to be the only stadium we're getting. So here are some custom Pokemon stadium cards, starting with Shrine of Punishment. During Pokemon Checkup, do 10 damage to each Pokemon EX in the active spot. Here's a stadium card I created thinking it would be a neat way to counter things like Entei and Suicune just chilling in the active spot, giving your opponent so much value. Now they'll have to take damage and potentially lose 2 prize points. The next stadium card is Martial Arts Dojo, and honestly, if we never get Fighting Ramp, I hope we get some sort of Fighting Ramp in the form of a Pokemon stadium card. At least that's where the idea for this stadium was. It says attacks used by each active fighting Pokemon costs 1 less fighting energy. Now, obviously, people are like, that means Rampardos can hit for free. Sure, it's a stage 2, but more importantly, things like the new Mega Medicham and Poliwrath EX become way more viable, as well as the other heavy energy Pokemon in the fighting type archetype. I think this would be the coolest, and I hope we get something for fighting types exclusively. Then we have a card that exists in the official standard TCG, Path to Peak, but instead switched it around to make it seem like it would work more in the Pokemon Pocket realm of cards, and it just says Pokemon EX in play have no abilities. Giratina, Darkrai, Greninja EX. Sorry, you guys are just normal Pokemon that costs 2 prize points. I think this could be a really cool control card. All right, so now I'm going to be sharing with you guys stadium cards that were created by other creators over on our Discord. And these next stadium cards are created by Captain Ice. The first one is Jamming Tower, and it says Pokemon tools attached to each Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, have no effect. It's similar to Guzma and Klefki. However, instead of just discarding the tools, they can have them take up the spot for a tool, but the tool just will not do anything until this stadium is replaced. Next up by Captain Ice is Sea of Nothingness, and I really like this one. This one says special conditions are not removed when Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, evolve or devolve. Because as of right now in the game, whenever you evolve, it removes any sort of status affliction. So if they're poison, sleep, it's a really cheeky way to get out of it. Outside of that, you would have to switch out, maybe even with a Lyra if you can't switch out with a paralysis or sleep, to really get rid of any sort of status affliction. But now this says if you are evolving, you keep that poison, you keep that paralysis, you keep that sleep. And I think this could work really well in a lot of toxic Nihilego decks. And the final custom card from Captain Ice is Spikemuth Gym. I think I pronounced that correctly. It says whenever a player's active Pokemon moves to the bench during their turn, so if you Sabrina, nothing will happen. If you Cyrus, nothing will happen. You do 20 damage to that Pokemon. So if they try retreating, they're taking some chip damage. So another control card that I would love to see in this game, because as of right now, the only stadium card we know we're getting is less of a control and more of a, hey, I'm running away, hit and run kind of card, which I guess makes sense for Pocket. All right, the next batch of cards are going to be from Kazuto. The first one is Sir Chester Bath. It says all basic Mega Evolution Pokemon EX, both yours and your Pokemon, take minus 20 damage from attacks from their opponent's Pokemon. And now with Mega Evolution Pokemon giving your opponents 3 points whenever they go down, you kind of just lose the game. So having something that makes them just a tad bit tankier, especially if you start with something like Mega Pinsir or Mega Absol, it makes playing those basic Mega Pokemon just so much better. So having a card like this, I think, could be really good for the game. Next up is Po Town, and this is another control card that says whenever any player plays a Pokemon from their hand to evolve one of their Pokemon, do 20 damage to it. So now instantly I think of things like Sylveon EX, which I think are going to be fantastic in this new set coming out, especially with the new Sightseer, I believe is the supporter card. You could just find those cards, thin out your deck by turn 2. Well, if you do that and you evolve your cards, well, you're going to be taking some chip damage. So all your opponent really needs is a heavy hitter and a Cyrus, and they can pick up some very fast points. Huge fan of this card. I like more control cards, and that's kind of what I'm hoping we get, is more control for stadiums. Next up by Kazuto is Primordial Altar. Once during each player's turn, that player may look at the top card of their deck. They may discard that card. So it's not like drawing, but it helps you thin out your deck and get closer to the cards that you're looking for. It honestly just could be a very valuable engine to get you closer to the cards that you need. I don't know if something like this would exist in a 20 card game like Pocket, but we have other cards that kind of do that already, but not to this level or not to this extent. Next is Dynatree Hill, which I think is for Dynamax, right? And it says Pokemon, both yours and your opponents, can't be healed. Another control cards. What's it called? I was going to say Ball Toy. Claydol Who? You guys know what I'm talking about? That Claydol with the ability? Yeah, doesn't matter. You play one of these, they can't potion, they can't irritate, they can't even Indeedee, if I'm not mistaken. They can't do none of that. So I would love a control stadium. Honestly, any control stadium we go over, already gonna tell you guys, huge fan of it. So yes, I would love something like this. And speaking of healing, we have Pokemon Center here that says once during each player's turn, that player may heal 20 damage from one of their bench Pokemon. So it's not like an Indeedee that only does the active, but it can help you with your bench. So I think this might be better with something like, you could possibly run this with Indeedee, maybe even like an Espeon that can heal 30 on its own or something onto the bench. You turn that into a 50 heal. I think that could be really good, like an Espeon, Indeedee, and a Pokemon Center, just a full healed deck. I think that could be very valuable. And now the last one from Kazuto is Shopping Center. Once during each player's turn, that player may put a Pokemon tool attached to one of their Pokemon into their hand. This is something that's so unique. It's essentially saying like, hey, if you start off with a cape or a helmet, but you're waiting for something else like, what is it, the metal coat, or it's not the metal coat, but the specific for metal Pokemon, and you're playing Melmetal or something, well, you can play this, and then Shopping Center will later say, hey, you can move it back to your hand and attach another tool that could be even more valuable. Honestly, even with the Mega Venusaur, you could start with Leaf Cape, remove it, and give it the heavy helmet. This card would make Mega Venusaur 10 times better, in my opinion. Now we're going to check out some single custom cards. The first one's created by Dogi, and it says Distortion World, and I like this a lot. It's similar to the one that I came up with. It says during Pokemon checkup, both active Pokemon loses 10 HP if they have more than 10 remaining. The only difference is this doesn't look like it could ever knock out your opponent's active Pokemon with this. It'll always ever get them to 10, but never lower than 10. And it's also not only specific to EXs. So this could be into babies. This could be into literally anything. So yeah, Distortion World, control card, huge fan. Speaking of baby Pokemon, the next custom card is by Vishu, and it's Daycare, and it says basic Pokemon in play with 30 or less maximum HP don't take damage from effects or abilities. They still take damage from attacks, but things like Greninja or any sort of extra effects that deal damage, you don't really have to worry about that. So when it says effects or abilities, I don't know. Does that mean it doesn't take damage from Rocky Helmet? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. The way I'm understanding this is baby Pokemon would actually be immune to things like Rocky Helmet, but maybe I'm misunderstanding that, and I think this could be very good. Next is another control card that I'm 1000% backing, and this one was created by Lunities 2.0, Gravity Mountain. Each stage 2 Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents, get minus 10 HP, so minus 10 maximum HP, I believe, and they have no ability. Yup, you guys read that correctly. A Greninja counter. I hope so. In some time in the future, please make it happen. We need to do something about Greninja. So definitely like this custom card. Next up is a custom card by Avalon, and it's Lumiose City. Each player in play, both yours and your opponent's Pokemon, except for Pokemon EXs, gets plus 30 HP. So this is very interesting. It's leaning into the, hey, don't play EXs, play something like Rampardos, which goes from maximum 150 HP to 180. Maybe this could be stronger or more balanced if it was only basic Pokemon, but with the trade-off of not being EXs, I think could possibly work. So I do like this. It would let games go on a little bit longer instead of ending in potentially 1-shots or 2-shots. But I think the strongest or tankiest Pokemon would actually have to be Wailord, right? It would come out to being 230, 250 with a cape, and this card, which is kind of crazy. And now for the final card created by Prometheum, this is Passage Umbrage. Hopefully I pronounced that properly, probably not. And it is a Dragon Support Stadium card. If either player's energy zone contains more than one type of energy, the energy that is produced will always be different from the energy that was produced last turn. So if you're water lightning, you will always go water lightning, water lightning, water lightning, which would be insanely huge for dragon types. But there you guys have it. Those are all the custom stadium cards that we were able to create over on Discord. And I just thought it'd be a fun time to share with you guys. Let me know in the comments if you guys come up with any of it for yourselves. Join the Discord, let us know there. And also, which of these stadiums do you really want to see come to the game? Because a few of them I really do want to see. With that, don't forget to like, hype, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys when the new set drops. Later.